Hey, in this video we're going to give a little more detail on the mounting for the Millhouse gauge pods. These are for the smaller 3 gauges in the center of your S30 dash, 240, 260, 280Z. Right here we have a 240 dash, over here we have a 280 dash, so the installation is a little different, so I'll go over that. These pods were not developed by Skillard, but when the company stopped doing these, we ended up getting the mold from them, and so we were able to keep supplying them to the community. They've always been set up as kind of a good place to start, and we've just had requests to be able to make an additional bracket for the back to really simplify the installation, and so we've done that now, and so I want to show you how that works. All right, so we're starting here in front of the 280Z dash. One of the things that we get asked is about a 260 dash. You know, what do I need? And really, it's going to depend on if you have the 280 style or the 240 style that's in there, but most of them should have the 280Z style dash, and that would be this one. So the pods will always come as a set of 3. Brackets will come as a set of 3 too, so you don't need to worry about that. It'll just come all together. One of the things that could be a challenge is this lip. In these, they'll slide into these holes into the back, and sometimes, especially if the dash is a little bit distorted, it can be a challenge to get that to slide inside. Right here you can see that just popped right in, no problem, but sometimes it is a challenge. And what I've done is I've grabbed several feeler gauges, and those feeler gauges, you know, for like gapping a spark plug, you can slide from the face side onto this lip and just kind of hold them there. You know, it might be helpful, second set of hands, but you can do that. And then that kind of creates a wedge to help that to pop in there. So I just wanted to kind of give you that tip, because I've had some of these that are a little more oval instead of the round, you know, and so they don't pop in nice and easy like this one does. So anyway, I wanted to show that, and then now I'm going to kind of show you a real easy way to tell 280 to 240 style gauges in the back of your dash. So when you're looking at the gauges, a 280Z gauge will have a bracket that looks like this, that's on the gauge itself. And then there's a strap like this that goes over it, and that actually is what holds the back of the gauge in. You can see it here. This one's still installed. And we'll get a little bit closer on that. This right here is what you'll find on a 240Z gauge. And if we could back up a little bit, you can kind of see that there's still one in here. So this is the factory gauge. It's got this bracket that actually goes over the top and the bottom, and it secures to these tabs. On the 240, it's pretty tight underneath here, so you might have a hard time using this on the aftermarket gauges. So we've changed that a little bit, and the bracket that comes on this one actually is a different length, and so because the gauge is a different size, so it doesn't actually work. So you would need one for that anyway. So now that you know that, again, this one here that we were just looking at is 240, and the first one was 280Z. So now that we know that, we'll go ahead and show you how to put them in. Okay, so for the 280, we're going to have 2 of these brackets. The ones that you'll get will be tumbled and a little bit cleaner, but these prototypes are what I have on me. And so then they also get a machine pin that goes in them. So we press those in, and then you're going to take this factory bracket and use these stainless screws that are provided. They're an M4. If you find that they're a little bit too tight, you can take a slightly oversized drill bit and open those holes up. But I was able to get these in. They're just really snug. So you have the PIM insert, PIM nut that's here. That'll go down, and the whole bracket will go on the inside of this little OEM C-clip. So I'm going to tighten that in. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Get my machine screw. Never force machine screws. If for some reason it doesn't go in easily, then there might be a burr or something in there, and it's always good to chase it with a tap before you do that. But because see how easy these went in, and then they're all the way in. I give them a nice little snug. And so basically what we've done is we've changed the length of this C channel. And so now I'm going to take one of my millhouse pods, and I'm going to give this a little flex to open it. Doesn't take much. And line it up on the tabs. Let me grab one here so you can see there's a flat surface with a little hole started. There's one on the top and there's one on the bottom. And so that's what we're going to sandwich there. I went with a little bit more aggressive screw so it can really kind of bite. So I know I could go with a finer thread, something a little smaller, but I like the ability to get a little more bite in the plastic. So that'll be something that, get started, and then you kind of got to push it to thread it all the way in. And once you do that, you'll notice that it might pop through a little bit on the inside. And again, I'm not worried about that because I wanted to get extra purchase on it. And when I put the gauges in, they won't interfere with that. So this is a Speed Hut housing. There's no gauge in it, obviously. But, these will drop inside. This 2 5/8. I can put this bezel on. And so that's what snugs that in. I still need to put this other screw in the bottom. And so you'll notice that these brackets are slotted, and that gives you adjustability in how tight the gauge will be held in there. And so good place to start is about midway in the slot. And so you do have adjustability in or out if you end up needing it. So that's one of the things I like about this is that you can adjust the tension that you're going to put onto this to hold it into place. So, you're going to, when you put it in, you'll clock the gauge so that way the top is at the top. So I'll go ahead and sit this, in there. And again, if I needed to use those feeler gauges to get that lip to slide in, I could. You can see there I didn't need to. Then you have these factory OEM brackets that go back in. There's a little tab there that slides into. It gives you a pivot point, so now I have tension on this. And so then I can put this up and reapply this. This is the factory screw. So you want to make sure you save those so you can get that started or get this bracket put back in. So it feels like I have pretty good tension on this. Not too much that it's really tweaking it, and not too little that it's going to rattle around on me. So basically kind of have that same OEM hold down fitment. Like I can come to the front, that's me tapping the lens, but that's not moving anywhere. So I feel pretty good about this. And then I'll just repeat the process for the second and the third gauge. Now we're on to the 240 dash. Same millhouse plastic, same blank Speed Hut gauge, but the brackets just look a little different. They're kind of like a Z bracket. And so doing a little bit of mimicking of the factory ones, except for slotting the top and the bottom. So it gives you that added element of adjustability. And like I said, this bracket over here is a different length. So you would need something like this in order to attach this gauge. And when you have the factory ones that have that C, it's a real challenge to get that fully wrapped around it. So what we've done here is we've basically just been able to go and replace the top. So again, I've going to use those little bit more aggressive screws. I'm going to go ahead and put this in, you know, get that slot about in the middle, get that in, and then I'm going to go ahead and reuse the factory screws that go in here. So I'll pop that out, put this into place, and if I get this in the middle, it should be pretty good to be able to finish the adjustment on the back. But if for some reason you need extra, you can bring this back to add even more tension. So I'm going to go ahead and get this screw in, and then I'll set it into place in there. Okay, so I've got the bracket sitting here. It does have a little bit of pivot if you needed to, but it should be about straight. So I'm going to go ahead, excuse me, go ahead and put this in. And again, if I needed to, especially with the second set of hands on the front side of this, you know, with those feeler gauges like I was talking about. And so I'm going to get that put into position. You can see that I've got it lined up here. I'm pushing on it to give it tension to ensure that the gauge is held into place. And then I'll go ahead and screw that in the factory hole. You know, get that tightened, double check that it's nice and snug, and do the same thing to all the other ones. One thing that I had mentioned is about the center is good, but this one over here that I mentioned, the factory, is a little bit different. You can kind of see that it needs a little bit of a clock, and it's real tight right there. So I might actually have to loosen this screw and slide this back ever so slightly to get that where I need it. But that's kind of why we added the extra adjustability, because all of the depths on these is a little bit different, not quite as straightforward. And the factory even makes different brackets like I had mentioned. So these gauges, the gauge pods, the Millhouse pods, are available from Skillard.com, as well as the brackets. And we do also sell package deals with the Speed Hut gauges themselves. If you have any questions, please email sales@skillard.com.